Now, as many of you may know, in 2016, Oxford Dictionary selected post-truth as its word of the year, defining it as, I'm quoting, circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief. Let's look at some examples, first of all. If you take last year's Brexit referendum, Aaron Banks, whom you might know was one of the big spenders in that campaign, but also a backer of UKIP for many years, very sharp-witted businessman. He bankrolled the Leave.eu campaign, which was not the official campaign, but was very important, I think, to the outcome. And Banks was, what everyone thinks of him, correct in his analysis of the outcome. He said, and I'm quoting again, "The Remain campaign featured fact, 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 fact. It just doesn't work. You've got to connect with people emotionally." That rings horribly true to me because as a Remainer, we were pressing for Britain's continued EU membership, but we were doing so by bombarding the public with statistics. Leaving would cost 950,000 UK jobs, the average wage would fall by £38 a week, and so on and so on and so on. It was exhausting statistical overload. And it became easy to caricature this torrent of indigestible data as no more than a series of arbitrary claims. And what the Brexiteers understood was the need for simplicity and emotional resonance. They were looking for a narrative that would give visceral meaning to a decision that might otherwise appear terribly technical and jurisprudential and abstract. Dominic Cummings, who was the campaign director of the official campaign, Vote Leave, argued at the time that the case for departing the EU had to be clear and to cleave to the specific grievances of the public. So while there were people in the campaign saying that the slogan should be "Go Global," which might be intellectually defensible, Cummings understood that it wouldn't win votes. And he had done earlier research on Britain's potential membership of the euro, when that was a live issue, that had revealed the potential traction of a pledge to take back control. And he was proved right. Meanwhile, after considering a run at the presidency for decades, Donald Trump intuited a similar shift in popular behaviour. The opinion polls show that the American people were perfectly aware of his character flaws. It's one of the most interesting aspects of all this. What happened, I think, is he communicated what I would call a kind of brutal empathy to them, rooted not in statistics or empiricism or information, but in a kind of uninhibited talent for rage and impatience and attribution of blame. So when people asserted, as they often did, that he was plain speaking, they didn't mean, as they might have in the past, that he was speaking the truth. I think what they meant in 2016 when they said that of Trump was, this candidate is different somehow, and he might just address my anxieties and hopes, which is a completely different proposition. So when Kellyanne Conway, the senior aide to the president, recently elected, spoke famously of alternative facts, she was capturing perfectly, if inadvertently, this new epistemology. In the post-truth era, what used to be called reality was becoming fungible. The point is not to determine the truth by a process of rational evaluation, assessment and conclusion, the old Enlightenment model. You just choose your own reality as if from a buffet to suit your emotional needs. And I don't think it's in any way a coincidence that there's been a resurgence of conspiracy theories, of pseudoscience, anti-vaccination, and most appallingly of Holocaust denial. Well, the social basis of post-truth, I think, is the collapse of trust in traditional institutions. The financial crisis of 2008, I think, still continues to reverberate around the world. It took the global economy to the brink of meltdown. It was only averted by eye-wateringly huge state bailouts for the very banks that were responsible for the collapse. In Britain, this was followed very quickly by the humiliation of the political class in the 2009 parliamentary expenses scandal. Meanwhile, there were scandals in show business, especially the monstrous sexual crimes of Jimmy Savile, which dragged the BBC and other broadcasting institutions through the mire. Print journalism had its own experience through the hacking controversy, no less of a disaster, which forced the closure of the News of the World, the resignation of its former editor, Andy Coulson, as Number 10's Director of Communications, a huge job, and then Lord Levison's sweeping inquiry of 2011 to 12 into the conduct of the press. That's just the British example. So in other words, we live in an age of institutional fragility. A society's institutions act, or at least used to act, as kind of the guardrails. They were the bodies that incarnated its values and its continuities. To shine a bright light on their failures, decadence, and outright collapses has happened is intrinsically unsettling, but that's not all. What's happened is that post-truth has flourished in this context. It's as if the firewalls and antibodies, if you like, to mix metaphors, of our system have weakened. And when the putative guarantors of honesty falter, so inevitably does truth itself. Secondly, and related to this, digital technology has become the all-important, primary, indispensable engine of this change. Now, in the early years of the online revolution, it was optimistically assumed by many, myself included, that the internet would inevitably smooth the path to sustainable global cooperation and pluralism. And I still think it's worth saluting the achievements it has made. The trouble is it's also done at least as much to foster, if you like, balkanization and a general retreat into echo chambers. Barack Obama put this very well in his farewell address. He said, and I'm quoting, "We become so secure in our bubbles that we start accepting only information, whether it's true or not, that fits our opinions, instead of basing our opinions on the evidence that is out there."